Well, happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
Is this a Monday?
It's a Monday.
A Monday of all Mondays.
It is.
Why did we pick Monday mornings to do these? Right?
Because this is how we can unload after a long weekend, right?
And I need to unload. We're not going to unload on that, though, because what we need to talk about today is regarding the kids, right? This is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I think we have an opportunity to use today and recognize differences that we have with our belief system. And I think we'll find common grounds on where we agree with protecting the kids. For instance, last week, you brought up a lot of topics, right, that I wasn't quite versed on. And so not having everything in my tool belt to communicate appropriately with you on that and knowledgeably, one thing that we did agree with was that it is an evil of all evil to hurt a child. Mm-hmm. And I do think that we both have an opportunity to elaborate. Yes, you have. Yeah. And you can add to that.
Yeah. And I think for our listeners, let's just talk a little bit more about what happened last week in our discussion. We had it was our first episode, essentially. We haven't released it yet. We'll release it with this recording, so they'll come out together. I think both of us, upon reflection, just struggled with it. I felt like I had unloaded on you in some ways, but I didn't actually say everything that I wanted to say. I still have so much more to say.
I can tell.
And you felt, you can describe how you felt, but there was sort of an imbalance in that recording. We've decided that you will bring a topic to the table this week, and so let's hear it. We're going to release these both together. We are letting you watch this whole sausage getting made with this podcast with Daunting Discourse, but we're doing it.
You said sausage today, and I just want to point out there was no pun. At least I don't believe there was any pun that she intended to make with that comment, because what we're actually going to talk about today is something that's very near and dear to my heart. We know that children have been my livelihood, and I will battle and boldly battle to protect the children, mine or any children that are not mine. I think that we all have an obligation to do that. And I believe that in the current social war, if you will, if for lack of a better term, there's a lot of animosity that takes place because adults don't necessarily have the same beliefs, but somehow those have become intermingled and intertwined in the public school system. So that is what I'd like to talk to you about. And I do not have the actual badge on me, but very specifically the NEA. So people that are not familiar with the NEA, that's the National Education Association. So it is the National Teachers Union. They offer a badge.
But this is the caucus, the LGBTQ.
This is the caucus.
Not the NEA.
Not the NEA, but it's a caucus through the NEA. So this is the badge, and I had tried to order more because they are available to order. You can go to the NEA website and put in the caucus, and you can pull that up. However, I was refunded my money, and they didn't allow me.
Who wears these badges? What has drawn you to this badge issue?
Yes, so thank you for asking that. So if you go specifically to the site itself, it will tell you that the badge is for safe people, so that any child or student from the LGBTQ community knows that they have somebody that can talk to them, and that person can provide resources.
So like a teacher would wear this badge?
Yeah, so potentially.
Okay.
Now, I do think that the language on the site itself does try to caution where it doesn't say, hey, teachers wear this badge, but what it does say is that it's recommended that those persons that would get the safe badge would then go to the public schools and the school system with that to say, hey, this is something that we would like to be able to wear. The problem arises, number one, it's through the NEA LGBTQ caucus. So who are we targeting? Teachers. We agree on this. This is what it's for.
Although, yes, obviously the NEA is being disbanded.
Well, so that's a whole nother topic, right?
Is it? I'm not even sure if people are still wearing these, if this issue has already been won, essentially.
No, this is something that actually, it would have been even in 2022. This has existed. So
I understand. That's my question, though, is isn't this part of what has already been dismantled by the Trump administration, this type of thing?
This has not been picked up by the Trump administration. These are still available. If you go to this website right now, you can purchase these.
Okay.
So to clarify, and if you're making reference to like the Department of Education and those pieces, in order to actually dismantle the Department of Education, funding can be removed from that, but legislatively, this has tried to be done in the past, and this would have to be something that the legislators would actually do if that whole entire department were to just 100% be dismantled, like removed, gone, it's done and over. And we probably agree on that.
No, that's happening. That's actually happening.
Well,
that is what's happening without legislative input.
There is legislation. No, it's still there though. Like we can pull up I can show you the legislation on it. It's still there, whether or not the funding is there, and pieces of that are put over to other departments. That's not the same as completely dismantling and removing and eliminating the Department of Education, nor is that the first time that it's been discussed. But legislators have never before done that to actually pass the legislation to completely...
Well, I think that Trump's position on this for many agencies that are funded by Congress is to dismantle them regardless and accept judicial challenges when they come and fight those judicial challenges. But certainly the NEA is being dismantled right now, partly because of the beliefs that the NEA was promoting things that parents don't want having been promoted in schools. And I think this is what you're bringing to the table today. My question is, like, have you already won the battle?
The battle definitely has not been won. And I would like to explain to you why the battle has not been won. So, and let's preface this to say, number one, all children are important. LGBTQ children, heterosexual children. I think sexuality should never be of a concern to care and provide for a student.
That's so good to hear. I agree with you.
Absolutely. And absolutely. So we can agree on that piece. We also, and this is a whole nother topic, but I believe by this badge alone, it also potentially deceives a lot of adults who do want to offer a safe place. And I think that a lot of teachers may not even be aware of the potentially dangerous information. Look I didn't even hit that. Like, it popped up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I have to agree with you on this. Like, I don't want to send my kid to school and have them scan something that takes them to links regarding...
Well, this one... So, and in case you all didn't know, I can just show you this popped up. Just because I accidentally, like you saw me, I didn't even hit on it.
Yeah,
I just obviously accidentally bumped the picture that was on my phone. Yeah. So this could happen, not necessarily intentionally, and this could be accessed. So as we talk about this, something that I want to keep in mind is that, and it has come up in other states, well, teachers can wear them because teachers may want the resources, but they can just put a piece of tape over the QR code. So folks, this is a badge that can be worn. It's literally intended to be worn as if it was on a lanyard. Mm-hmm. So the flip side of this badge says, I'm here letting students know that this teacher is safe, that they're not going to throw any hate on somebody, which no teacher should be throwing hate on any student. But the problem arises with the QR code. So the QR code can even accidentally be scanned. Now, when we look at it from, let's put a piece of tape on it. Let me ask you this. So imagine a school, I had a teacher that, let's say a teacher was going to bring in a Playboy magazine, okay? Well, you can go ahead and leave it on your desk, but just put a piece of construction paper over top of it so kids can't see that image. Well, how do you think that's going to work? What happens if the construction paper falls off? What happens if, let's wait and see, like, we know they're trying to hide something. What are they hiding? Not to mention, like, what happens then if a student opens up this book? The ramifications, not just that would fall on the teacher, the potential liability that now falls on the school, and who funds lawsuits if schools end up in a lawsuit? We do. Taxpayers have to fund this, right? This is all taxpayer dollar that would eventually fund this. But now it also falls under what does state law say about all of these things? And if there's anything that has to do with sex, we need to make sure that it goes through a sex advisory board. And it's not just sex. The law very specifically includes family planning and, health and emotional, mental, and all of these things that fall with under the category. So I want to talk, if we can, about a little bit that's on the badge and how it's not necessarily content and agreeing or disagreeing personally with the content, but rather, is this content safe to be in the schools? And then we can even look at the child abuse laws of the state. And even if you potentially put a child in a position to be harmed, even if they weren't harmed, then you fall under a different level of child abuse. These are specifically to Michigan, by the way. So if I reference law, this refers to Michigan law.
But it's an NEA, which is a national organization, supported badge that then has links to things that are sexually explicit, including homemade dildos. I looked at it myself.
Yeah.
And I saw it took 14 clicks to get there, so it's not as easy as looking at a porn magazine on a teacher's desk with a piece of construction over it. I mean, it is 14 links or so to get to it. But a child could reach through scanning this badge some things that we as parents don't necessarily want our kids to expose to in whatever grade. But what is your larger point? It's not about the badges, right? It's about what in school and how we're doing it. Like, what do you see as the problem of how we're teaching sex, how we're exposing our kids to sex in school?
Thank you for asking that. The way that I see it is the schools are putting children in a position now to essentially be desensitized to so much sexual content and sexual information. And when I say that, I'm also going to include family planning. And a lot of this content changes this large viewpoint, right? And we have our right as a family to our religion and our creed and all of these other pieces, and it starts infringing upon a lot of rights that folks have. But most importantly, this is content that potentially some of this content, right, if it comes to family planning and sorts like that, to say this straightforward, because you were very nice, I think the viewers should be aware that when you brought up the dildos, like the fabricated dildos that you can make, there's one picture very specifically, folks. It is 2 brushes, a corn cob in the middle, and then the 2 of them are taped, and they actually refer to it as a double penetration device for the vagina or the anus. Imagine the harms that could come to this. That should never be included in sexual education. But the line is that these are not in sex education. They have not gone through a sex advisory board, which, if that were the case, parents not only have an opportunity to opt their student out, but did you know a student can opt themselves out of sex education, and it is not a requirement for graduation? Mm. So do you see the multitude of concerns that kind of fall under just having access to anything like this?
So how much of a problem is this, though? Are there teachers wearing these badges in our schools?
Have I seen this school in any of our badges? Absolutely not. I have not seen it. From my viewpoint, what I do see, and you brought up how the NEA is a national teachers union. There are 5 states that actually have joint membership where you can get, right, like your state and the NEA and a membership to both of them at the same time. There are 5 states, and Michigan is one of those states. And now you're aware of teachers and the union and the law that comes through, and where do the majority of all teachers go for their union, right? Mm-hmm. And as a teacher, how would you feel if a student scanned this and you had no clue? So you had referenced you had to go through 15 clicks to get to this point. But as a student, if I were to scan this, and I will tell you there are parents that have asked students, right, that parents sat with them and they were older students, and so it was very supervised. You would go probably exactly to every single one of those clicks. You're going to go, oh, I'm going to scroll through all this teacher stuff and I'm going to click on sex education. Oh, this one says for teens. Oh, then we can go to DIY pleasure. I mean, it's all there.
I see. I saw it. I understand your concern, for sure. what I'm wondering is how much of this is a problem today anymore, because we have so many other problems. We have extraordinary problems that are happening in this country.
What
right
are the
now.
other problems in the school?
Well, we
that
have
you see?
not in schools. I mean, I understand we're focusing on schools.
Yes.
I feel like there is greater issues that we are facing today that would be so great for your attention, that are more pressing, and that we have constitutional problems, we have due process problems, we have First Amendment problems, we have all kinds of problems. I feel like your talents could be used in a way that has a greater impact, because this doesn't have much of an impact. It's again, you're clicking all the way down, and we don't know of anybody that's actually using it. But I get your point. I'm with you on that. So how can we solve that problem of getting these types of things out of schools in a way that is productive, so that we can focus on the actual problems that are now coming into existence with Trump's policies, which are fundamentally changing our country. It's changing it away from a democracy. That's happening.
Okay, we have a different view.
Yes. So I just want to say, I come here this morning on a Monday morning with all kinds of anxiety, because the weekend there was a Supreme Court decision that was very significant and regarding immigration. And to me, the world is weighing very heavy this morning, and I just struggle with this distraction of a badge that seems like it doesn't really get a lot of attention. It's not, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I'm with you on that. So how can we just stop giving our kids access to how to, make homemade sex toys? We can all agree on that. Like, let's just move past that, because we have other issues that we really have to focus on as a country.
So I want to say thank you. I'm very flattered, actually, that you provided that you appreciate my talents and
I do. That's why we're here.
Somewhere else. However, I do want to say, I'm not going to say that I'm offended by that, because I'm not. I'm actually, like I said, flattered.
And I
honestly,
I was trying to figure out how to say this to you without affecting you, because this is your life work. This is your life's work, right?
Well,
and I
and
respect
they should
that.
be, and children are. And
yes.
This is what I'll say in response to that. And I actually will boldly say to you, I disagree. I fully disagree that our children are just a minute piece, and that
I didn't
our
say
children.
that.
But it did sound like that to me, because my efforts, I do not believe, would be better put anywhere other than with protecting our children, because there are a lot of
our boys, right? Our boys are suffering in school. Can we focus on getting them better educated and getting them through the process?
Yes, but this is what I'm saying to you. So I know that a lot of what you're going to have to say is just, dumping on the Trump administration and all of these horrible things, and we can disagree on that. But I would like to go back to the former administration and what happened when things were being overlooked, and we had COVID, and everything's in an uproar, and now parents have this new view with what's happening in the schools and with our children, because everything is online. And so parents see these and, wow, what have we been doing?
There with you, yeah.
But this is almost exactly what you just said, and it is exactly my point to why I'm bringing this up, because parents were like, oh my goodness, what is happening? Because parents are so hyper-focused on this and the economy and life and what am I doing and work and everything else, and we put all this trust into the schools. Parents have to start realizing what has been taking place, and if this gets their attention, then maybe they will start putting more of those efforts in to make sure that they can participate. So what can we do about this? I think what we need to do is we need to bring an attention to this actual matter, because whether or not a kid actually scans this is through the teachers union that is promoting teachers to use these resources so that they can be a safe person and share these resources.
I just want to
students.
clarify, though, it's not the teachers union, it's a caucus.
It is a caucus through the teachers union.
But we got to be clear on that. We have to be clear. It is facts,
so
right?
It is facts, but again, you get this through a membership with the teachers union. So just so everybody can see and clarify, it is the NEA LGBTQ caucus. So it comes through the subdivision of, and this is hosted through, and you can find this, and you can actually get the member link directly on this link. You can go directly to the NEA benefits. So again, what can we do about this? I think there needs to be an attention. And when we bring attention to topics that we don't agree with, what happens? All of a sudden you get engagement. Okay, so now we have parents that are engaged on this topic. So yes, there are many other things that are taking place, but by no means ever should our children ever be overlooked. And I think if we focused more on our children and more on the family, I also think we'd have higher education success rates with students and testing scores in school. And if schools started to focus away from this social welfare that's being pushed and instead started to work on the actual basics of education, I think that it also would be a completely different situation from a broadened perspective across the nation. Again, and if I speak right, I have the state law from Michigan to explain that, because there are other important topics that take place, but to the point, we have to start making our children one of the very most important topics across the nation with things that we do, and we have to start doing that within the educational system. And I do believe that means making sure teachers are educated with that, which is extremely pertinent to being neutral in the schools and doing their job to educate the students.
I agree with you. Where I take issue is I don't see that this particular thing is a problem other than theoretical. And this particular badge, there are not reports of kids scanning it. There are not reports of kids building, toys at home.
Well, that we know of, though. Let's
But
be
we
honest.
do know of kids that are suffering because they just never came back after COVID. They never developed those skills. And, from an education standpoint, I feel like talking about things that we don't have a lot of knowledge that are even going on. We don't know that people are using badges. It seems like a distraction, and it seems like and I'm not going to say Democrats, because this isn't a Democrat issue. This is a person issue. I feel like there are a lot of flares being thrown out there that are distractions from the real issues. The real issue to me here is our children are not getting educated. My own son has struggled in the past couple of years. I understand how deep it is in terms of the we're just not getting what we used to from the schools. As much as they're trying, there's a lot of headwinds. There's a lot of different, challenges that they're confronting that they weren't when you and I went to school, or when I went to school. You're younger than me. But I do see the difference today in the way our kids are educated than how I was educated. What I'm just saying is we're not going to get past it if we focus on the outliers, and instead of focusing on the goal, which is to get which you articulated beautifully. We have to focus on our kids. So that is my feedback to you. You can take it or leave it. I would love to see your powers focused on an issue that is actually facing our children, as opposed to something that is a risk if you click into this various links.
So do you see what you just did there?
Tell me.
I am. So you took a badge and minimized it with potential of causing irreparable harm. So when I can understand,
I didn't minimize it. We don't have any reports of it causing harm.
No, but
or being used.
I disagree with you, because while the badge itself may not have been reported that somebody got this and caused harm, you're missing the bigger picture of the content on the badge and how this is.
I'm not. I
Okay,
saw it. I
so
did the work.
Then let's go back to step 1 on that very first page.
Yep.
This is for those that purchase it, right? NEA, LGBTQ caucus. You can go get a membership with the NEA and the MEA, and you can have the joint membership, and you can get this badge and any benefits that go along with it for teachers. So there was minimization to what's taking place in the schools, because you have a multitude of athletes across the state where this badge contains those resources, where teachers are being offered these resources, where we are now promoting children and men to compete against women.
Okay, we're moving on from the badges?
This is not. This is all on the badge. This is content that's about family planning on here. So referrals for abortion, or where you can do this, or where you can, what you can do with your baby, or if you get pregnant, mental suggestions, counseling suggestions, all of these pieces that are on this badge are also the very same concepts that have been promoted through the State Board of Education. And these are all being promoted, and I'm going to use the word indoctrinating. Our teachers are being indoctrinated to indoctrinate our students. So while there may not be an absolute issue of what's on this badge and a student scanning it, the information on the badge is still something that should not just simply be going into the schools and not be embedded through anything that has to do with the SEAB board. So
yeah,
the
I understand.
Advisory Board.
It's illustrative, essentially, what's on the badge. It gives a flavor of what the school is doing, what the school system is doing generally with bringing in teachers to discuss these issues with their students.
But do you understand the multitude of examples of teachers discussing these sort of issues with students, and let's even take it a step further, very politicized comments and things that are done in schools. And our schools should be neutral grounds, right? Neutral grounds where students can express themselves. Every teacher should be a safe place of neutrality for every single student. Every teacher should make sure that whatever form of bullying has taken place is not happening. And if our schools were absent of so many of these controversial pieces that teachers and schools are literally bringing into the schools, I think we agree that we would have a lot more focus on that, which is important, right? The reading, the math, the science, because that's what our kids are there for.
Right.
And we could go on about how I think that, we need to nurture the families more and offer the families and bring the families in. I mean, the families and the support that a family can offer is directly correlated to the success of a student. So directly, again, I don't know of a scenario where a student has scanned the badge itself. But knowing that it's there, knowing that it's being promoted to the teachers union, I do think that whether it's the legislators or the state board, our elected officials should very clearly make a statement that they do not support content like this freely flowing into the school and to the students, that our focus needs to come back on protecting all students and making sure the schools are safe for education. And let's just get rid of it. Let's get rid of it all, and let's make a statement moving forward. We have test scores, and I don't know if you know where we stand. Michigan,
yeah.
It's not good.
I don't disagree with you. I think that there's nuance here, because I think that, we agree that there are trans children, right?
There are children that identify as trans children. We do agree, and that percentage is astronomically high right now. It plummets when kids leave school.
Well, yeah, and we can have a whole separate episode on that. I have strong views about how, the X and Y chromosome have not been exempted from all of the damage that we have wrought upon ourselves.
There are abnormalities.
Yes, deviations. And I'm glad that we agree on that. I think that's a huge step forward. And I also just want to very clearly state that I do agree with you that the type of stuff that I saw in the badge links does not belong in our schools. Like, it is very, as a parent, if I knew that my son was exposed to this stuff, I would not be happy about it. And I applaud your efforts to get rid of it in the schools. I do. I feel like that ship has turned in the past 2 months.
Has it, though? What's happening in Mount Pleasant? Has it turned? But I'm asking you honestly, has it turned?
I don't know for sure but the barge is turning for sure. There are educational institutions across this country that are being defunded, both at the college level, and programs are being defunded.
And in Mount Pleasant, actually in the state of Michigan, I know that one of the investigations in regards to Title IX, right, that would be pertinent information that would potentially have referrals through this and resources for teachers on this, I do know that one of those investigations has officially been picked up by the federal, by the feds.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's an opportunity in this. If as a state we were going to agree to say, teachers, no, like this is not something, and I want to just reiterate to you again, even if a student does not scan the badge themselves, which we just saw how easy that was.
Yes.
This is providing resources to teachers. This is not something, I mean, even as an adult, you would not want me talking to your child about this. I would not want you discussing content on here with my child and without my knowledge. And this goes down to the very essence of potentially what a groomer is. So what happens when we're equipping teachers with all of this and literally promoting them to have these discussions with our children and teachers? Here are your resources, so you're a safe person, so you're equipped if a child wants to talk to you. That's not their place. And it's also a beautiful opportunity for groomers to step in and say, oh, well, I'm going to try to help this kid. They want to
Well, hopefully they're not in our schools, Bree.
But what did we just have? Do you recall what happened last year? But it was very real. It was very real. We could go on and on.
Yes, we could.
But I love that we agree on this, and we can both support different concepts, but we agree that this has no place to freely evolve in the schools and be in there.
I do agree with that. And I think that by having this discussion, we've been able to find a nugget of common ground here. It's not that I disagree with you using this as a vector into this issue. It's an entry point, right? Is that what you're telling me? Even if the badges aren't being used, these issues are still being discussed, and it is a problem, and it has to stop. We should not be having these discussions with our children without parents weighing in on whether they want.
Yes. We have an opportunity to be proactive with this, is what we have, because nobody wants anybody's kid.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to say as we wind down on Child Abuse Prevention Month that we can kind of tie up this episode with?
Well, I do want to reiterate that it is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And parents, I just want to remind you, you have to be cognizant of things that you do and say with your child as well. And teach your child boundaries. Teach them that they can say no about having conversations with others, and remind them that they're in school to learn and be educated with reading and math and science and all of the good educational pieces that will help them be successful adults.
And that was the Daunting Discourse.
Yay! And shoes. Do we get to compare shoes today?
I didn't really get too fancy with
I wore my comfies today, though.
I did notice that the shoe video got some views, though. So.
I do. I don't know if I can even lift I don't know if I can get my hip up that high. Get ready. Oh.
All right. Oh, very good. Okay.
Oh, there we go. See, it was just an easy day.
It was, right. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.